It's now the year 2020, and the years ahead look troubled. We live in troubled times, and how appropriate to present to you the Carnival at the end of the world, which seems very much like what we're going through. This is Madame Lulu presents The Carnival at the End of the World from her Book of Fate, a tarot deck invented and realized by Messrs. Orlovsky and Falk of the Troupe Fledermaus. It's a concept deck, I believe, designed by Kahn and Selesnik. And it reminds me very much of a book that came out in the 80s that was popular called the Codex Seraphinianus by Luigi Serafini. And that book was an encyclopedia in manuscript with copious hand-drawn colored pencil illustrations of bizarre and fantastical flora, fauna, anatomies, fashions, and foods. It's, very surreal. But the images in this deck remind me very much of that book, which is, it might be out of print. If it's not out of print, it's pretty expensive. Now, when I first saw this deck, I thought, I don't know if I can work with this, because when I look at tarot or even oracle decks, I like to see images that suggest actions or narrate a story in some way. And when I saw this deck, I thought, oh, this looks more like a deck of characters in costumes, like a set of trading cards or something. They're interesting and the art's interesting, but they're not really doing active things. They're just sort of posing in costumes. Am I going to be able to work with that? And so I didn't think too much more about it, and then I saw a walkthrough by Papa Squirrel, and it was very well done, and it got me sort of interested in the deck again. And then I still thought, well, it still looks nice. I don't know if I can read with it. And then Colin of Prism and Company did a walkthrough where he discussed this idea and got me thinking more about it. And so I thought, well, I have a lot of tarot decks that are just kind of like easy reads, easy to work with. And maybe it's time for me to do a depth month where I really dig deep into a deck and I really have to put a lot of work into it. So I thought this is probably the one to do that with. The deck itself was a pleasant surprise when I got it. It actually looks very different to me than it does in the video online. So this may not communicate very well. Initially, I didn't have a great reaction to this color scheme. And I also thought that the cards were going to be matte cards. The box is matte, and I thought the cards would be like that. The color scheme is weird, like magentas and blues and sort of murky yellows and greens that kind of look ugly together to me. But in the pictures I saw, they seemed more vivid. In real life, it seems more like aged, and I hate to use the word dingy, but it has an antique-y kind of look to it. It's in a tuck box, and the cards themselves are linen finished. They're a linen finish, and I want to say semi-glossy. I don't know if you can see. It doesn't really look glossy, but they're not matte. I thought they were going to be matte cards. They're not. And also they're on white backgrounds, but the backgrounds are not stark white. They're sort of an ivory color, and they're actually kind of they look a little gray or a little dusty, or I'm use the word again, dingy. But they have a not quite new, fresh, clean look, more of like an antique or something. The images themselves are not quite as sharp as I thought they would be. They're more stylized renderings. And I kind of like that. They have a sort of a crude quality to them. They are all within sort of a pinstripe border, and I might as well just start showing them to you. Starts off with a few extra cards. This is Orlovsky. This is Madame Lulu. This is Dr. Falk. This is The Tempest. The Deluge. The Inferno. No, these are the extra cards. I'm not sure of the significance. The deck doesn't come with a little white book or any explanation other than what I've already read to you. You can order a separate book. It's about $20, I think. I haven't done that. I don't know if I will do that. I'm not much into books, and I generally rely entirely on the images to give me what I need out of a deck. So we're going to start with that and see what happens. It is a tarot deck beyond those cards with the tarot labels. The images are an intriguing palette of colors and artwork. Like I said, I hate to keep using the word dingy, but they are kind of dingy somehow. They're not as stark and pristine as I thought they might be. And therein lies some of the charm, that they have almost an antique, fished out of the attic quality to them. I haven't been reading these. I hope you can see the font there. It's fairly legible, I believe. That's the Empress. But the interesting thing to me about these images is they are each confined in solitary stances, positions within this pinstripe border, like they're each in a cage, or you know, they're on bases, almost like little characters in a Dungeons and Dragons or some kind of role-playing game, with pieces that you can move around. They're all on sort of isolated bases. They also kind of remind me of sideshow characters at a carnival or a fair or a circus. And each one has its own sort of specialty. They're all sort of specialty acts, but don't really know for the most part what those acts are yet. This is a very unusual hermit, which seems to be levitating somewhat. Fortune. So yeah, this is like a very strange circus filled with very strange circus acts. Carnival at the end of the world, where all of these very special people have been drawn together somehow to some purpose, as yet undetermined. I particularly love this Temperance card. I don't know if that's an ibis or what kind of bird that is, but it's beautiful, beautiful coloring. It's going to be very interesting to see if I can actually get these cards to work for me or work with me. I'm looking forward to spending most, if not all, of the month of January working with this deck and seeing what I can glean from it. My lighting is a bit dim, but these cards are a bit dim. It's a very strange deck. May not be for everyone. If you like the strange and odd and unusual, you might love the deck. I'm hoping that it becomes more than just a sort of trading card collector's art deck for me. I'm hoping that it is readable. At this point, it's too early to say, but I'm hopeful. Okay, so it appears that the suits are defined by the imagery and the Roman numerals. So this obviously seems to be wands. And that looks like the Wicker Man. The Page of Wands appears to be tree-like with various mushroom fungi growing all over him. The Knave of Wands, I think, is covered in fur, red curly fur, I'm not sure. I'm curious as to why most of these are positioned on their own little pedestals or islands. Now it looks like we're in cups. So this is a very strange gallery of figures indeed. Perhaps it's my own inability or newness to working with tarot, but a lot of times when I do a short spread, single card pull or 3-card spread, I usually get the answer to my query almost immediately. It doesn't require a lot of work on my part to come to the answer. Now this deck, on the other hand, looks like it's going to take a lot of meditation and study to determine what the cards are trying to tell me. Sometimes I like that. My White Witch Tarot, for instance, is my second favorite tarot. And that one, the images are very psychological. They're full of symbols, but the images are rather surreal and obscure. It takes some dissection to arrive at what the cards are trying to say, or what I need to see in the cards. This has quite a wide variety of colors, textures, imagery. And this was not a particularly cheap deck, but it did come in the mail very quickly. That's maybe why they charge more for it. I don't know. Of course, it's independently produced, and those tend to be more expensive decks anyway. I have another deck on the way, one more at this point in January, and that one looks to be the antithesis of this deck. It looks to be a very easy to read deck by RWS system standards. This one, on the other hand, I don't know. I think I'm up for the challenge, though. Since I've been acquiring so many decks since I started my channel, I think it might be appropriate that I'm forced by this deck to slow down and not just skip over it and pass it by, but to really take my time to study it and to try to understand it. So, some of these costume characters are a little bit frightening, some are a little bit comical, but all of them are intriguing. That is the Carnival at the end of the world, and my deck for January 2020. I may have another one to show you before the month is out. I'm going to try to do no more than one a month this year, but we shall see. Can't always predict what comes down the pike. So perhaps you will take on the challenge of delving into the carnival at the end of the world. I'll see you next time. Bye.